Hello. Nice to see you. To see you, nice. I just realized that I'm on the wrong video image. Just swap it to widescreen. There you go. Nice to see you, nice. There you go, it's working. So welcome. To live stream. Am I still live? Yes, I'm still live. Nice to see you, nice. So if this is the first time you've been to Livestream, I'll explain to you how it works. You can write to me and ask me questions through Skype. My Skype address is Cairns12. And if you want to speak to me, you need to have a microphone with a headset. It doesn't have to be a complex microphone. You can just have one like this, you know, with a little microphone in your headset. And you need to have good enough internet. Otherwise, you can write me questions. I do these talks every Sunday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. French time. Always check my website for the details, because sometimes I'm not here. Sometimes I don't do it on those dates. I'm traveling or I'm busy. So you can check on my website under Livestream. All of this information is in the box below. My Skype address is Cairns12. What else? If you want to join me for any of my events, the next event that I'm doing is in Spain in May 2020. And you're welcome to sign up for that. Can't think of anything else I need to tell you. Oh yeah, if you want to see my talks and want to see the edited versions, because you don't want to sit in silence or you don't want to see me messing around with Khaleesi, there is another channel which I don't run. It's run by someone else, and they edit all my live talks and make them into short, succinct clips, and that's called Videoclip-Lisa Cairns. It's a really beautiful channel, but it's not run by me. It's run by another person. If you try to write to me or anything on that channel. If you watched the other day, me and Khaleesi had a miraculous event happen where Khaleesi changed form for the day, but she has now gone back to the other form. She turned into a red boy dog. It was a little plumpy. Now she's back into her wolf like body. Aren't you, Easy? Okay. Oh, yeah. changed back. You changed back to the handsome girl. Oh, oh, you cleaning that rug, are you? You cleaning that rug? Is it dirty? Oh, oh. It's dirty, my love. Oh, oh. Sometimes dogs are a little loopy. So I'm scratching her in a place she likes. She's trying to clean the rug that she is sitting on. It's almost like she's trying to clean me. That she's trying to do it back to me, but because they can't quite think like we can. She does it to the rug. Don't you, Easy? They go like that. And they're cleaning themselves. Just turn the volume off there so I didn't blow your ears out with me choking. Okay, so at the beginning of my talks, I always like to do silent sitting for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. So if you'd like to join me, otherwise you can go and make your dinner or browse the internet. But you can also just join me in sitting silently. It's really beautiful. water. Hello. I just have to get my phone. I can hear it's on. You know, the notifications. It's going beep, 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 beep. Tick. So, what was it I asked? What was I put as the title today? Oh, the simple one. Am I enlightened? So the most basic answer to that is who would be enlightened? So if I were to claim that I was enlightened, who would that be? Who is this Lisa that is enlightened? Like, who do you take that to be? A thought, a feeling, a behavior of the body? So let's say that you said it's the body that's enlightened. Then the other teachings wouldn't make sense, because it says you are not the body. It's one of the most fundamental teachings of non-duality, that you're not the body, and that there is no separate person in relationship to the world. So if the body is enlightened, then that means there is separation. So who would be enlightened? A thought, a feeling, an emotion? Or do you imagine that the person that you imagine yourself to be becomes enlightened? But that's the illusion, that you imagine yourself to be someone who is enlightened. So that's the most obvious answer, is who is it that you think becomes enlightened or is not enlightened? Who? Easy? Are you enlightened? Who are you, Isi? Who are you? Who? Who are you? Are you an angel? Are you? You Mama's angel? Ducky, 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 duck. Ducky, ducky, duck. Ducky, 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 duck. You're an angel. Are you a full angel? She just had a walk, walk, and she had a din din. Walk, walk, and din din. Did you have a din din? Did you have a chick chick? Yeah. So that's the most fundamental question, is who is it that you imagine becomes enlightened? If you imagine someone as thoughts and feelings in the body, as something, then you imagine that something becomes enlightened. And there's many people out there that claim to be enlightened. But who becomes enlightened? The shift is realizing that you are not a thing, and that everything is appearing in you, and that you aren't a thing, and that by default makes you everything. Because if you're not a thing, then you're everywhere, you're all things. Separation only happens when there's a belief that you are a thing. So who becomes enlightened? Who is it that you believe yourself to be? Isn't that something? Isn't that beautiful? So then we go to the next level of the human, and no, my human is not enlightened. So the human, what do I think the human is? I think the human is a biological machine that has particular conditions, social conditions, and psychological conditions, and genetic conditions, and all of them are at play creating a character. But that character isn't a solid, separate entity. But my character, so if I talk about this body, and if you have an image of enlightened as, say, being serenely peaceful with no emotional reactions, so say if that's what we take it to be, that you're like a walking Buddha that's always like, then I'm not. This character isn't. It can get jealous, it can get angry, it can get moody, it can get stressed, it can get pissed off, it can get stingy. What other negative emotions on it? And that's a never-ending process. And on the human level, this body-mind strives to improve itself because it sees that it's better to be kinder, it's better to be less angry in terms of society. But on the ultimate level, it doesn't really know what's better or not better. How would you judge that? And so there's not really any guilt about behavior, or there's guilt relatively, like if I run over the neighbor's cat or if I scream at someone, but at the same time, it's seen that we just don't know what good and bad is, and it's a happening, and there isn't an independent entity inside these bodies doing these things. But intellectually and cognitively, it understands that positive emotions, so to aspire to positive emotions is much healthier for society and for yourself than to aspire to negative emotions, like always being grumpy or moody or angry. So that can be seen. But at the same time, it's recognized that life has a will of its own, and Lisa can be a surprise in all situations. So my character, this character certainly isn't enlightened. So some people claim that their character is enlightened, that they don't get angry, that they're only in peace. And I don't know about that. That's not been the evolution of my character. What I believe, but it's only a belief, and at the end of the day you don't know, is that that's not possible. And if I believe that, then that means that more than likely in the reality that won't appear. So if you're going to have something appear, then you have to first of all believe in it. So believe that it's possible for a human to like continuously always be at peace. But I don't believe that, and I never have the inkling to try and change that belief, ever. I have the inkling to aspire to be a nicer, more balanced human, but I just don't have the inkling to. It just doesn't come up, the thoughts to believe in that. I just don't believe in it, and if people told me that, there's a part of me that's open-minded, and if someone says that's their experience, then my tendency is to believe them and give them the benefit of the doubt. But also there's another part of me that just doesn't believe it. So I just don't think that people are lying, so I would give them the benefit of doubt and maybe suspect that maybe they wasn't conscious of some things, but then also I would be open to the idea that maybe it's true, maybe there is that possibility, but I fundamentally just don't believe it. The reason that I don't believe it is because I feel like it's not human nature to be peaceful. You know, that goes against all these spiritual concepts. I feel like we have all our emotions, and that they're meant to be there. You're meant to be afraid of the big bad wolf, or you're meant to feel guilty if you kill the neighbor's cat, if you run it over, or if you smash into someone's car. You're meant to have these feelings. I do believe that they can be reduced by a number of things, is conditioning yourself more into non-duality, seeing that there is no doer and that there is nobody here. Like, so conditioning the body-mind mechanism into that, I feel like it's more in line with life. Understanding your unconscious mind and your shadow side, and understanding and completely accepting that humans also have a predator side and that they're an animal and that they're striving to survive, and really owning that. And I feel like that can only be owned when you really see that you're not the doer. Like, it's impossible to see your shadow side if you really believe that you're the doer. I feel this can be really balancing for the person doing this. And then also I feel like when there is this energetic shift back to consciousness, that this can like create a distance between the emotions and the experiences. It's like an energetic distance, like it doesn't feel so serious, so therefore it relaxes a lot of the dynamics and helps them pass through quicker. And when I talk about the shadow stuff and getting to know yourself, I mean getting to know your body, getting to know your chakras. Like, you can't really know your shadow side without really knowing your chakras, because you can't feel it. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in society live in a lie. They are telling themselves a story of who they are and what their life is, and that's not actually true, but they're not conscious that it's true. It feels true to them, so they're telling themselves the story that they're kind or nice, and yeah, they're kind and nice maybe like 60-70% of the time, but there's then also the time where you want to knock your block off your parents, or knock your father's head off or something, knock his block off. I forget that saying. It's a cute saying, knock the block off. You're not going to act out, but there's a moment of you of rage that comes up. Or when you hear like someone speaking about different politics to you, there's like rage or hatred that comes up. Or if you get in an argument with your partner, there is a rage or hatred that comes up. And that comes up so strongly, more than likely because you're in denial of it. So most of the time you're pushing it down. So when it does come up, it's like a big, huge burst. It's like opening a champagne bottle. It's something like, but a lot of the time people are really unconscious of this, because first of all, you have to be able to feel it in your body. If you're just living in your third eye chakra and in your thoughts and in your stories, you can't feel that when someone at work speaking to you, that like you want to smack them in the face. Not really, but like that you're angry with them. What it feels like maybe is a deadness in your body, and maybe you feel bored or you feel extremely tired suddenly. And so it's very hard pointing it out when you see it in other people, because often people are really unconscious of it because they don't want to become conscious of it, because it's too painful for people to see about themselves. What story can you create about yourself? If you've always believed you're a good person, how can you possibly tell yourself that? Imagine if someone's like really into church and really into God. Like, how do they justify these hateful feelings or thoughts? The only way they can do it is really suppress it. But everyone does it, I think. Everyone's walking around in the story of what they want or what they don't want. And their stories are always changing according to what they're involved in. Hello? Oh, good. Suddenly I had a feeling that my audio had stopped. My wire into my audio is damaged, or the audio receiver is damaged. But even when I change wires, it doesn't fix the problem. So it implies that it's in the audio receiver. So for the microphone, so if I move too much, it suddenly stops and I don't notice. And I'm talking away. Boo, 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 boo. So and I think that that people misunderstand what waking up is, that it's something energetical and not personal. So, like for an example, I think something that I would have been surprised about before was that I can still have projections onto people. So I thought that it was like going beyond projections, but it's not the human going beyond projections and judgments. The human has to have projections and judgments. It's part of the machine. But there's something in the machine that lets go. So in that way, you could maybe say the machine, there's something in the machine that's enlightened, but or it's not even the machine that lets go, but something happens where there is this shift from being that machine to not being that machine anymore. But my brain can still have projections. So for an example, I can be walking along the street and I can look at someone and there can be a thought like that they have very dark energy or something, and that's a projection. I'm not right. That's a subjective point of view. Like there might be some accuracy in it, but it's also like this body, mind, thoughts and feelings appearing. Or I could be listening to someone speak and there could be the thought coming up that they're arrogant in what they're saying. And maybe another person would think they're arrogant and another person, but maybe the fourth and fifth person would think they were just being confident. So this body still has projections. Or it can have a projection that it thinks that somebody's not treating it very well. And that is a projection, but it doesn't, well, projections are a fascinating thing because they're not truth, but they help us navigate around this world. But it doesn't mean they're true. So if I go to someone and say, I think you're treating me badly, or I think this person treated me badly, or that person treated me badly, or I think this person's not very nice, or whatever I'm talking about, these are all projections. And they're never going to be truth because you can't contain something in a word or in a sentence or in a thought. They're leases, particular opinions, and there isn't a truth. Like somebody's behavior isn't a way in which we describe it, but there might be close to it. So if I say, I think you're treating me not very kindly, or you're treating me aggressively, that's the way I feel, and they might not internally feel like that. They might be having drunk lots of coffee or be very excited. I mean, if they're screaming their head off, then it's pretty clear, but it doesn't mean it's fact. And also the other really fascinating thing that's about this subject is it also doesn't mean that they're guilty. Like often what we're playing with in our beings is that they're guilty and I'm innocent. Even if they're screaming, even if they were to stab you or shoot you, you can't see the greater picture of what's happening. And even though we say it's them and they get taken to prison, say, like we don't understand the mechanisms of how that's happened. Like, we believe it's them and that they've got a soul and they've got a personal entity inside their body, but that's only what we believe. Like, I remember already enjoying this film, The Giver. I'm trying to update the references on my reference page with a lot more films. There's so books. There's so much I've read and books that I've loved, but forget the name of the books, and it takes a lot of time to look it up. But one film that I really enjoyed was called The Giver, and I'm still meaning to read the book of that. I've been sent it on audio file, but it wasn't easy for me to listen to. That was Osborne. Thank you for sending that to me. But the film The Giver, I just thought it was really cool, because in the film it's really complex what happens. I can imagine the book is so cool and really amazing, its description, but one part that I like about it is that they've got this society that's in the future, and they're denying a lot of the past to society, or they're denying all the past. So I'm sure they tell the people about some form of past, but they don't tell them about what the actual past is. And that means that they can control what society thinks, in a way. And for example, they erased the notion of death. So when people got older to retirement age, they were sent to elsewhere, and basically they were euthanized. But nobody knew that. Even the people that euthanized them didn't know they were killing them. They just injected them, and then they went down a chute to elsewhere, and everyone believed they were in a place that you go to for retirement, and that when they're ready to retire, they'll go and find them. And they had no concept of death. Wasn't that really something? And I really loved that, like watching that in a film. I thought how brilliant that is. Because, and we think from our side of things, how stupid. How can they not realize that people die? But we're the ones that's stupid, because we invented the idea of death, and we are the ones that dogmatically believe in death. Whereas actually, death doesn't happen. There is shifts in energies. We take death as when the body stops moving or stops breathing, but even scientists can't discover when death actually takes place, because when you look into the cells are still behaving the same, the cells are still alive. But we define it as when the brain stops or when the heart stops, but the body is still alive, just not alive in the way that we think it is. So scientists can't actually find that moment of death in the cells or in the body. And you could never find it, because what happens is that body then transforms into something new. But because we're so convinced that somebody is their behaviors and somebody is their body, that when the body stops moving, we think that's the end of them. We're so conditioned and hypnotized by this thought. Like, I can feel even now people are like, of course that's death, of course that's death, they're dead. So like, say if Khaleesi died, there would be a missing of the form of Khaleesi, but who is Khaleesi to die? There is no Khaleesi in there. She doesn't die, because she was never alive. Who Khaleesi is, and has always been, is life, which is right here. So when you're looking for your loved ones that have died, what you're missing is their behaviors, their body, their interaction. But none of that was ever what was experiencing. That wasn't an entity. That was never experiencing. That was being experienced. Who they actually are is what's looking out of the eyes from that perspective now. This pure presence. that's everywhere in everything. So actually they're still here. They never left. Their essence, who you always spoke to, not who replied in the word form, like that's an appearance happening in life, but their essence, who actually heard you, who actually was conscious of you, never changed. That's really miraculous. But their conditions did. Like so if Khaleesi died, like we say it's Khaleesi's dead and the body is gone, and everyone understands what that means. So her behaviours have gone, that body is gone, that beautiful face has gone, those pointy ears, that hyperactive personality has gone. But she hasn't gone. The essence, that one that looked at me, the one that was conscious of me, the one that was conscious of me speaking, not the one that interpreted it. And when I said sit, the brain was like, oh, sit, stand, walk. Is my microphone still working? Yes. YouTube still working? Yes. Yes. Everything's still working. Yes. Yes. Another thing that you could say about the body is that yeah, no, forget that. It's going to go off on another tangent then. Forget it. So a question you might ask is, if I'm not enlightened, which I'm not, then why do I have hierarchy to speak about it? Like, shouldn't I reserve it for people that are enlightened? Or say that they're enlightened, or that, I don't know, whatever. And the truth is it's just happening. I know that sounds like a real cop-out, but just me speaking about it kind of happened, and that's what life wanted, and it doesn't seem to end for the moment. But I don't feel internally that I have more right to talk about it than anybody else. I just am talking about it. There was, in the beginning, this shift happened and everything was so different, and there was like an excitement to share that. And then from that, that people just kept asking, and then this happened and that happened. It led one thing to another. But it just kind of happens, and I don't think about it. It's just what I do. But I don't have any right to talk about it over anyone else. And I feel like what do I feel about people talking about it? I don't feel anything about what people talking about it. I think that it all works perfectly, and you'll go towards the person that you resonate with the most. And I think that's what's important. And when you're finished resonating with that, then you'll move on to another energy. I'm not a fan of gurus. I've always state that. But I also say that if you're attracted to that, then I think that's beautiful. Not because they're a guru, but because that's your path. Just like also, though, if you're attracted to something else. I think that you have to go towards that which resonates in your body. That I feel like the wise way to live life is go towards that which makes you expand. And that's your guru. But a lot of the time people don't know what that means. So Ramesh used to say, in every given moment, do exactly what you feel like doing, knowing there is nobody doing anything. And I feel like in every moment, it's not in every moment you should go towards that which makes you expand. Like if a lion is running towards you, then more than likely it's pain that makes you run away, like fear comes. But in general, it's like it's moving towards that which opens you. And being brave with that. Like I think that's the most mentally healthy way to live. That's what I did before I had my shift, this shift in Bali. Like I'd had many shifts, but this was like this big one. Something really like broke a hole in this being. I was in Bali. I'm sure many of you have heard this many times before. And I had 1 month in Bali. I'd booked 1 month. You get a 1 month visa. I was totally alone and nobody really knew I was there. Like my friends or family. And I think I had $5, $4, or maybe even $3,000, I can't remember, Australian dollars. I had a certain amount of money. I paid for my accommodation for a whole month. And I just decided that I was going to do exactly what I felt like doing for the whole month. So if I felt sleepy, I slept. If I felt like eating, I ate. If I felt like walking, I walked. And I tried my best to not follow shoulds or shouldn't, but to follow what the body was instructing me. So not like a mental idea of what I should do. So not fighting the tiredness and be like, oh, you should stay awake because of this or because you're going to sleep later. Just really allowing the body to run the show. And like just walking along, and if I suddenly saw something and I liked it, I just went in and bought it, or I went in and had a massage, or like just everything that I felt to do. Yeah. Because in that the mental noise of you really begins to disappear. Like in allowing your body to orientate you. I'm not saying that it's the recipe for life, because your mind has to work certain things out, so you might have to force yourself to do things sometimes when you really don't want to do them. But in general, letting the body really inform you of what it wants and it doesn't, and really trusting that. And that's really out of control. The mind is always trying to control and form an idea of who you are and where you should go and what you should do. And it's really out of control to listen to the body. So I'd be in conversation with people and then suddenly I'd stand up and be like, I want to go now. Goodbye. And it was okay because I didn't really know anyone. And so it wasn't like I was really letting down friends if I was out for food with people. It was more like I met them in the cafe and was just speaking with them and just really trusted that wasn't arrogance or that wasn't hurting them, that my body knew a greater truth of what I had to do. And I still live a lot like that, but not all the time in this society. It requires a certain amount of compromise, not that much. We live in a relatively free society, but a certain amount of compromise. heard that, easy. I heard that. Okay, so on to some questions. So if you'd like to talk, please just write a message saying you'd like to talk. I would really love to speak with you. I think I just have to change some settings in Skype. Black hole. There you go. And it is really vulnerable, like doing what you want to do in every moment, because it also challenges your concept of good and bad. Like it you know, like if you're in a restaurant, you know, and you suddenly feel like leaving, for example, you know, that could be considered inconsiderate or selfish. And it's really like playing with that to an extent. Like I think that because of the way our society's set up, and because everybody else isn't doing it, like we do have to be considerate to an extent of people's feelings. But playing with this for a period is really beautiful. Like just going with the feeling rather than the intellect, and trusting that life is taking care of itself, and that our ideas of good and bad are just ideas. Like if you're having dinner with somebody and they decide, so if I was having dinner with someone and they decided they wanted to leave, and they were fine to leave me in the cafe alone to carry on eating my food, like I didn't have to get up and leave, like I would be totally fine with that if someone said, I just have this feeling in my body that I have to leave now. And I would be really okay with that. I mean, it could get more complex if it was like really late at night and you're in a dodgy area and they're driving you. Like as a female, it sometimes gets complex with those types of things, maybe for a male as well. But if they would, like most of the time, even if they explained that, I most probably would be happy to get my food packed up and just go home with them. Like I don't see like there's a line, I suppose, of where people become abusive, but I can really understand that, like their body is telling them that they've got to go home. It's no offense on me. And I don't see eating a meal as happiness, but I understand there is also a line on that as well. Like people can use it cruelly. Like I didn't, when I don't think I have cruel intentions when I'm using it, but I know that people have used it cruelly on me before. Like they've used it as an excuse to hurt me. Like they've said, you know, I'm just doing this because my body wants to do it, and it's quite harsh what they're doing, but really they're doing it to punish you and to get you to say no and to argue with them, like to push you to that line into argument. So it can become complex when you're interacting with other people, but at the end of the day, that's their issue and that's them, and you can deal with that in the moment. But when it comes from you in a genuine place, that you're not trying to hurt someone, you're trying to follow your body as a way of expansiveness, and you're following that expansiveness, you're following love, you're not following meanness where you're doing it to hurt or to upset the other person. You're doing it as a way to expand. So you're not using it as a game. But in all of that, just saying that, it makes me realize that you have to be super aware of the body, because you might not even realize that you're doing something to be mean to someone. Like, your story is that you want to do something. So say if you're with your partner and you want to flirt with another woman and in front of your partner, and that's really what your body says it has to do. But deep down, what you're doing is you're wanting to hurt your partner, you're wanting to humiliate them or embarrass them. This is just an example. But on the surface, you might not be conscious of that. On the surface, it might feel like something that you really want to do. So it is complex. Like, you really have to be aware of your body. And I think that's why over the last 4 or 5 years, I've spent so much time teaching chakra work to try and get people really conscious of what their body's saying. So you've got your surface level, like, I want this, I want to flirt with these women, and then you've got your deep feelings of what you really want. And I kind of feel your deep feelings of what you really want are always expanded. Yeah, it gets so complicated because I say that, but sometimes the deep feeling is to move away from something. But it's even that, it's like a pure feeling. It's not done from hatred or ill will. It's complex. I struggle to put all of that into words. Okay, we go to questions. Hi, Milosh. Hi, Milosh. Thank you for your question. Hi, Lisa. Sorry for taking up your time. That's okay. Just wanted to thank you for your presence and everything that you do. That's a pleasure. I really enjoy talking about this subject, and I feel very passionate about the subject. Yeah. The last stream I joined when you were talking about opening the crown chakra, just before the conversation you had over the Skype, and for a few moments I felt such a powerful connection with you. Actually, there was no me or you, just listening and watching, no listener and watcher. Powerful glimpse. Then I had to get back and let the energy work in the lower chakras. Glad there are such beings as you that are helping in mass awakening. Who knows how many Kundalini awakening people had just by listening to your stream. Thank you. Oh, that's nice, Milosh. Thanks for sharing that. I feel like it's life. I don't mean to say that to negate your praise. Like, it just feels really impersonal to me. I really enjoy speaking about it. It brings pleasure. Sometimes it brings pain when I'm seeing people suffer a lot, but and having weird games played out with me. But in general, I love speaking about it. But it really feels impersonal. Like, I don't feel like it's me that does it. But I also really appreciate your you saying thank you, and on the human level, I really hear that and take it on board. I'm not meaning to push it away. Hi, just giving a link to my new infographic, A Guide to Enlightenment. Oh, thanks, Tassel. How to reach enlightenment. Oh, nice. It's too long to read now while I'm on stream, so I'll read it later. Hi, Alango. Hi, Chris. Lisa, I have an internal conflict. Sorry, I have an internet conflict. I have an internal conflict that affects me a lot. What can I do? Lisa, I have an internal conflict that affects me a lot. What can I do? On the human level, so on your thinking mind, trying to recondition yourself to see that happiness doesn't come as a result of anything. So normally our internal conflicts are about what you've done, what you could have done, what you should have done, what someone's done to you. And so just seeing that there is no doer and that life couldn't be any other way, and that happiness doesn't result, or isn't a result of something that has or hasn't happened. So reconditioning yourself in that. And then also another thing that you can do on the human level is pulling your attention out of that conflict. You could also go and work with a therapist and look at ways to resolve that conflict in your life. If it's actually something practical, like you con someone or you're mean to someone or someone was horrible to you. So you could actually work through physical stuff that you do to change that situation. But on an internal level, seeing that presence is all that matters. So coming back, so on the human level, coming back to this moment that I am, this is. So the mind tries to pull you off into conflict, into insecurity or difficulties, and seeing that beingness, that presence is enough, and that you're not guilty. Thank you for your message. Thanks, Alango, for your message. I don't know if you listened to the stream, but I'll write to you afterwards. Hi, SRC22 demo. Hi, Lisa. I have a question for you. 25 years of practice of being in the present moment. If I am more aware and in the present in a day, I have much more intense and heavy dreams. My question is about the dreams. What can I do to have less intense dream? Meanwhile, being more in the present. I don't know, basically, your situation, but I'm just going to have a poke in the dark for something that you can explore. So if you spent 25 years practicing being in the moment, and the more that you practice it, the more that you have intense dreams at night, I would suspect that you're suppressing something, and that by moving your attention to the present moment, you're trying to suppress something that needs to come out of your body. So, for example, say if you were in the army and you saw something traumatic in the army, and when you came back, you maybe went for therapy and you realized you had post-traumatic stress, but it got better and blah, blah, blah. So say that happened, but it's still in your body and it's still in your system. And then you use the present moment to negate that during the day, to negate the difficult energies of it, but it's still popping out of your system. It's still coming out of your system, and it maybe needs to be looked at from an energetic level or a bodily level. So maybe doing something like holotropic breathing, Osho breathing, some Osho work. What's this other? It's like a massage technique. I've forgotten the name of it, but you could try more physical things. And it could also be something else, like you did something bad, or you regret something that you did in your life, or you wish you'd done something differently, and it's like a habit in your body to keep going back to these thoughts. And so you use presence moments to pull yourself out of that, but it's kind of stuck in your body, and you need to release it from the body, the system, to help pass it through. That's what I would suggest is most probably happening, because why are you having such intense dreams? So intense dreams tends to be like our brain is trying to digest what's happened to us, and it's trying to deal with that. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it's something that you can explore. Thank you for your question. Hi Praveen. Hi Lisa. A lot of times I feel there is no way out. I feel helpless and completely demoralized. There is no hope, that this is it, and there is nothing I can do to alleviate suffering. It makes me tired and not enthusiastic about anything in life. I have no purpose. I know that there is a lot of good in my life and a lot of bad too, but there is nothing that gives me any motivation to do anything. I've tried to see where I feel this in my body, and I see it, but so what? Depression just stands constantly and there is nothing I can do. Is there really no way out? Hey Praveen. Thanks for your question. I feel like you're being a lot more honest than in previous questions and previous times that we've talked, and I see that as a good thing, that you're being more honest and speaking more from what your body is saying rather than what your mind is saying. I do actually think this is the mind as well, but I think that you've said it to yourself so many times on an unconscious level that it's become a bodily contraction in the solar plexus. So this is the hardest part. And in one way, it's totally up to you whether you listen to me, and in another way, it's God's will. Isn't that bizarre that I say that? It's both and neither. But you have to see that that's absolutely not true. Even though you're having the feelings and thoughts of it, seeing that it's not true, that's an energy and a thought system that's coming up. It's like putting a filter on a light. So you put on a blue filter on the light, and it's seeing that you aren't that blue filter. Who you are is the consciousness that's behind that. But the moment it's so uncomfortable for you, your consciousness and that feeling become one and the same thing. So you believe you're depressed. You believe you're stuck, that you're helpless. So there's no detachment from it. You can't see that helplessness is arising, that depression is arising, that no motivation is arising. You're absolutely identified with it. So it's seeing that it's not true, it's just a feeling, and at the moment that feeling feels like it's really real, and you feel like you're always like that and you're stuck like that, and that isn't true. So the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree for 40 days and 40 nights. A Maya illusion presented itself through heaven and hell. And I can assure you that this, what you're describing, was presented as the Buddha's hell, this hopelessness, that life is pointless. But the Buddha sat through it and saw that it wasn't true. It's not really that the Buddha sat through it, it's that the Buddha recognized that that wasn't who the Buddha was, or who Gautama was. That's not who you are. That's not who you are. And I would just commit yourself to coming out of that. If it's really bad and you're really having very depressive thoughts, then you could go and you can get some medication from the doctor. I'm not recommending that, like you have to go and speak to the doctor, but the reason that I say that is there's no shame in that. And I think spiritual people sometimes have a superior idea, and I think that medication on the short term can be helpful, because your brain stops producing serotonin and then you kind of fall into a hole, and then it helps the brain reproduce it again, but not in the long term. I think in the long term it just comes another mechanism to shut you down. But in the short term, if it's really bad, these sorts of things can help your body start kick into functioning again. There's like a biological thing that when you've had a certain amount of depression, your brain stops producing, I think, serotonin, and yeah. But I'm not a doctor and you should go and speak to someone, but I just want to say that, as in, if it's really, really bad, the depression, there is that option. But also there is meditation retreats you can go on. You could do Osho meditation. Osho retreats, there's so much that you can do, exercise, eating differently, to help pick you out of this energy. So that's on the human level. But when you say there's no hope, I assume that you're talking about Neo-Advaita, the way that like certain teachers say there is no hope. It's hopeless for the person. And that's not talking in the same context as depression. So if you're saying there's no hope in context of depression, you're totally misunderstanding what they're saying. That what they're saying is there's no hope of the person becoming enlightened. Like it's hopeless for the person can't make this happen. Which is true, because firstly, the person doesn't exist. Secondly, who is that it going to happen to? And thirdly, it's beyond the person. But it doesn't mean within the dream that you can't tidy up the cage, that you can't make things better for you in the realm of you. You can make things better. If you feel really depressed, you can come out to, like, not all identified people are really depressed. You can come to a more balanced and more happy place. And it's more than likely that you'll hear, some people really, really suffer prior to energetic shifts. So in some stories, they go into deep suffering and then there's a shift. But for some people, the way it is, they become more and more balanced. And as they become more balanced, then they can hear that this is it. You know, when you're really suffering, you're like, oh, fuck off. When someone says this is it, you fuck it. But as you become more balanced on the human level, there's like more space for it to be heard. The person isn't seeking so hard. When the person's really suffering, it's just so shut down, it can't hear, it can't be heard. It's like taking the whole center stage. Yeah. This is where Neo-Advaita can be very dangerous for depressive people and depressed people. It's part of the reason I think that I began to veer away from speaking too much about Neo-Advaita. I think it's really beautiful and I love it. I think it's such a beautiful message, but I think that most people misunderstand it. Of course people misunderstand it because it's not a personal thing. So when the person grabs hold of it, like the person then tries to put it in, like there's no hope for me, I'm really depressed, or I'm dying, or I'm really ill, or I'm really hurting, and there's no hope for me, it's hopeless, I can't do anything. And that's really not true. That's really bastardizing the subject. It's almost like the person that is depressed wants to beat themselves up with something, so they use that. But thank you for your question. Hi, Izzy. Dear one, love you. Still sick, but hoping for improvement. Oh, yeah. Hi, Jordan. If you want to speak, please message me. It's nice to speak with people, and I often get like consumed with taking written questions because I can't see the people. So please message me if you want to speak. I would be happy to speak. Hi, Lisa. I wanted to share what happened yesterday. I was in the shower washing my beautiful body, and when I looked up at it, the thinking come, I don't feel like I'm a man, obviously, and also I obviously saw a man's body in front of me. Then later in the morning, I was in a cafe and looking at the trash in the street. I wasn't feeling more important than whatever was appearing in front of my eyes. Such a beautiful moment. And then the neurotic patterns come back. Thank you for your talk. Much love to you and Khaleesi. Ah, nice, Jordan. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Hi, Wesley. Good evening, Lisa. Just joined. Sorry if you already addressed this. Any comment on the phrase dying before you die? Ramana talks about the I permanently subsiding in the heart. Is there a specific moment in time, like a threshold that is crossed? Or is it just deeper and deeper disillusion of patterns and separation? Hope that makes sense. I think it's different for everybody. I think for some people it's like sudden. In one way you could say everything's sudden because there is only this moment that only ever happens here. And for some people it seems to be gradual. And for me, it doesn't feel like there's a total disillusionment of the I. I feel like there needs to be some form of self there in interacting with life at points. And then other points, it completely can vanish. So in some instances, there needs to be some identification with the body. But maybe we all speak about different things. It's hard to know what people mean by things. And it could be that I'm not as evolved as Ramana, but it could be that we're speaking about different things. But then at the same time, who isn't as evolved as him? It's also really bonkers thinking. It's all irrelevant. It's all thoughts coming and going, and here we are. This is it, baby. This is it. But I do take these questions seriously when it's asked about me because I want to try and be as open with people as possible and not have any facade up, even though I do have some form of facade. And what I mean by facade is like I do have some form of not saying everything that comes to my mind. Because or everything that I do, because why is that? Let me just be really honest. It's because really I'm a little bit scared of revealing everything over the internet to people. It just feels too vulnerable. I feel like people might kill me. That sounds really paranoid. But on the most extreme level, that's most probably what it is. Like if I really said everything I did and everything I thought without some form of facade, I would be placed in the mental institute or be killed or be in trouble. People wouldn't understand. Yeah. It hurts a little bit around the throat. So obviously this is my projection. This isn't true. This is my projection of the way that I've interpreted society. And it brings a certain amount of pain when I say that. And that's my karma. And that's what I mean, like, by that you can endlessly evolve in this subject, because that is something with practice, I believe that I could transform. I think it would be really amazing if I just said everything. I think it would be really cool and really beautiful. And who cares if the results of it, that just being really genuine, I think would be really amazing. I'm not saying that I hide loads or like I'm being deceptive to you, but I know that there is certain things that I know there is some form of facade that I'm living up to. Like I just know there is. Like, I do these sessions every Wednesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. French time. I mean, now on English time, which is 5 p.m. But, so not always before I start, I feel like doing it. Like, sometimes I feel like doing something else. And I don't come on and say that. Like, I don't come on and just like, I don't feel like talking today. I sometimes do. But that's not really a big one. Also, like, I just know that I can't explain it exactly, because I feel like I'm really, really as genuine as I can be in a lot of ways, but I can feel that there is some form of facade. Like there is like I've been trained how to be civil. I'm not like totally wild. Like I'm making cognitive sense, I think, a lot of the time. But it's and also I fart often on Livestream, and I turn off the volume on Livestream so you guys can't hear it. So there's a good example of some form of facade. So I quickly, so you sometimes might see in the middle of the sentence, and that's me farting. So I go on and I turn the volume off so you can't hear it, but you've got no clue I do that, and then I'm like, but I don't do any reaction. I just sort of sit there, and maybe I'm a little like, so there's an example of my facade. Like, and sometimes before I do the live stream, I change if I'm in my pajamas. Not always. I sometimes do the stream in my pajamas, or I put on makeup. I'm also a little bit vain with the way that I place the camera. Me and my partner had an argument of that. He wanted me to have it directly at eye level, the camera. He felt like that was the most practical way to do it, and it meant that there would be no slants. You know how you see a slant in the background, so everything was straight, and I felt like I wasn't as attractive in that position. I felt like I looked better if the camera was higher up. And him being a perfectionist, he took it when I told him this. But I didn't come on and tell you guys like that we've just had a little bit of a falling out because he wants me to put the camera at a certain angle. And I didn't like it because it can be quite distorting if you've ever worked with cameras, like the angles that you put it at. You see how now like my hand looks really big. Well, if you have the camera lower than you, your boobs look really big. I don't know if you've noticed, if the camera is ever really lower than me, my boobs look enormous because it looks bigger what's closer to the camera. Anyway, and so having the camera slightly above me, I feel puts me in good proportion, better proportion than having it below me. So that's a facade. It's good that I say all these things out, not just for you, but also for me. What else is the facade? Sometimes when I speak with people live on stream, sometimes people make me feel uncomfortable. It's not them, it's my interpretation. My body feels uncomfortable from their energy, and I don't want to humiliate them or embarrass them. And so there's like a delicate dance that I'm doing. Like I'm not just saying to them, I feel really uncomfortable now. My energy is not resonating with yours. Goodbye. Like there's a dance that I do. Sometimes I do that, but most of the time I try to be really not humiliate anyone or anything, or be too harsh. But all of these things are relative. Like, who knows, at the end of the day, being really harsh might be the best thing. Like, it's all relative. So it's all like these ideas that come out of the Lisa body mechanism, and then it's like a way in which I'm being. Maybe there's also some idea in me that is concerned about your judgment if I'm really harsh with people as well. But not, it's more that I feel sorry for people and I don't want to hurt them, but maybe there is also that there too. Like that's the idea of people killing you, like if you do something wrong, everyone's like, ah! So it's safer to be kind sometimes. So yeah. So basically, Lisa is not fucking enlightened. She doesn't fart in front of you. She's all right with burping. That feels okay. But when it comes to farting, she feels like she needs to turn the volume off like this. See? Now, did I or didn't I? So Lisa's really, as you can see by me saying all these types of things, like Lisa's really not enlightened, like, because when you're teaching enlightenment, like you're breaking down concepts. So you might start, like when I first started enlightenment, it's like you go through all these things, and then you go through and you see that, trying to be beautiful is crap. Like it doesn't lead to happiness, and it's an idea, it's just a social condition. And you begin to learn all these things, and you deconstruct your mind, and your mind becomes more and more relaxed, like it lets go of a lot of ideas. And then you begin to believe that you're going to get to a stage where you've undone all your judgments and all your beliefs and all your preconceived notions. And to me, that means that you'll endlessly seek. Like you do it to an extent, but you're never going to be free of these peculiarities that we have. It's part of being human. The freedom is this energetic shift from being that person to not being that person. And during the process, the person more than likely becomes less neurotic, with less like constraints or ideas about anything. But that's not your freedom. But you're always looking on the personal level. So when you get upset because you look terrible in a picture or something, or because you've put on loads of weight, or because everyone saw you being really horrible or something, when you get upset about those things, you think that that's your unhappiness, and that what you need to do is stop being upset about those things. And if you weren't upset about those things, then you would be free. But that's an illusion. That isn't true. It's this shift from being that person to not being that person. It's seeing that that person is being experienced. It isn't who you are. What can happen is that, like, someone taking a really terrible picture of you, or you farting live in a talk or something, is that draws you into loads of seeking. So you feel so uncomfortable about that you go on this desperate seeking energy to try and recover or try and be something. And it's that seeking energy which creates lots of suffering, and that does dissipate. What begins to happen on the human level is you begin to stop seeing things as something that create you happiness in the future. And so therefore, the embarrassment, the humiliation, the fear, the anxiety comes up in this moment, but there isn't this belief in it that then makes it last for a lifetime, or however long it is. Just like pain that's arising from these machines. I also realised that I'm 40 this year. I'm 39. I'm still in my 30s. I'm 40 later this year. I also realised that, this shift only happened coming up to 10 years ago in this body-mind, this big shift, and that there has been lots of processing. So, I don't know what this body-mind will look like by the time it's 60. Maybe by the time it's 60, it will be a lot different on the human level, and there'll be a different reporting about it. Yes. Okay. Well, that's that. I forgot what we even started with. Hi, Simon. Hello, dear Lisa. It is always a gift to me to sit in silence with you, whether you are enlightened or not. You have truth inside you, and you have the great fragrance of freedom of mind and being alive. Nice to see that light in your eyes and your face. You are life itself. God bless you, dear. Oh, that's very sweet, Simon. I like this way of acting towards every moment and being spontaneous and live. I will try it, and I just started to know more about chakras to observe my true feelings. Thank you. With pleasure, Simon. Hi, Hedrick. Hi, Lisa. When I dream at night and wake up in the morning, the dream doesn't exist anymore. Is this the same way I die here in this reality? Because from your point of view, the reality still exists if I die or not. Thank you. So yeah, when there is a clear seeing of who you are, you see that your whole life has been a dream. That things are all projections of your mind, and that they're not truth. They're not actually the way they are. So what you remember of your past, what you think about your past, isn't true. It's a dream. Your body might have to pay consequences for things that have happened in the past, but in this moment it's all dream. So say with Khaleesi, she grew up as a street dog in Thailand, in Koh Phangan. Sawadika! Kapunka! That was spontaneous. Like I didn't even know I remembered how to say hello to a male and female in Thai. Kapunka! Swadika! Anyway, she was born on the island. She was a street dog. Many of the dogs on the island are street dogs. But she had someone whose mother was looked after. She lived outside the post shop, and that is kind of acceptable in Thailand. It normally means that the person that owns the post shop would feed them. But she was a baby of the mother that lived there, and the guy had stopped feeding the babies. And I think that her mother and some of the babies had been squashed by a car, so she was the only one left. And then she came to live with me. And Lisa didn't want you, did she? She was angry that her boyfriend at the time had brought you to her. She wasn't angry at you, though, was she? But she wanted him to take you back. She didn't want to be responsible for you, did she? And so for 3 months, the first 3 months, I looked for someone else to have her, but nobody else would take her. We tried to offload you, didn't we? And then I had the option of killing her, putting her down, putting her to sleep, leaving her in the jungle, or leaving her at a ashram and driving away. Because at the ashram, the Buddhist ashrams, they feed dogs because they believe that the dogs are reincarnated monks that have been bad in their previous life. But the cruelest one would have mostly been leaving her because she'd have starved to death or been poisoned. So that was my options. And in the end, I decided that I couldn't, this body didn't want to have the responsibility of killing her or leaving her at the ashram. So she came back to Europe with me, didn't you? But I can't say there was a moment in the beginning where I said, I want that dog. So that was her beginning in life, that she didn't have anyone that wanted her. But you know what's so amazing about dogs? Is that she has no sense of that. Her body might store the trauma of being a street dog and the trauma of being abandoned, like her family being killed. So she might have trauma in the body that responds in particular situations. The body has a memory, but she doesn't identify with that. So if I said to her, who are you? She doesn't say, oh, I'm a street dog from Koh Phangan, Thailand. I was abandoned when I was young. My mother didn't even want me. My parents got killed. So she doesn't have any identification with that. So that's not her. That's only us. It's only what we project onto her. That's our story of her. Who she is this moment. This. She's not her past or her future, what she has or hasn't done, or what she's going to do, or what she looks like, or if she's a good girl or a bad girl. Sometimes you're a bit naughty, aren't you, Isi? You're a bit naughty. You're very good most of the time, but sometimes a bit mean to other dogs, aren't you? Huh? You're a bit mean to other dogs. Yes. Yes, and to chickens as well, and to rabbits. A bit mean, and to mice. Anything that runs away from you, basically, except a horse or a cow. So she, that's the same for us. It's not true, the story you tell yourself about your body. That's not who you are. It might be what the body's been through, but your memories are subjective, and there's so many different ways in which you could tell your story. Depends on how you want to present yourself, whether you want to present yourself as a victim, a hero, baddie, goodie. You can present yourself in so many ways by the story in which you tell about yourself, and it's not true. That's not who you are. It's a dream. It's a waking dream. You're this moment. You're this presence. So in that recognition of who you are, it is seen to all be a dream. It's the way we function in this society. So I say, I'm Lisa, I'm from Berkshire, I'm blah. So that's what happens, but it's not truth. It's a dream. It's a waking dream. Dun, dun, dun. So who are you? When that's seen to be story, who are you? Who? Thank you for your question. Hello, Marie. Hello, Lisa. Sending you love. Please, can you advise on what to do when you are confused about doing or not doing something? E.g., I'm not sure if I should this person tomorrow or not, as they may change my life. I'm not sure for better or for worse, so frustrated of what to do. So the way that I do things, but I'm not 100% sure that will work for you, but the way I was taught by Roger and Ramesh and lots of other books, A Course in Miracles that I read, was to follow that which makes you feel expanded. So you hold both options, not when you're in lots of fear and you're contracted. If you're in lots of fear and contracted, then everyone feels fear and contracted. But just sitting with both and seeing which one opens your heart, and then go for that. Like, so when you think of it, it like resonates in positivity. I don't know if that makes sense. Thank you. Hi, Isabel. Hi, Anthony. Your incarnation's karma may be asking you to accept that should God choose for an internet stalker as Jesus on the cross, one must accept as they do not know what they're doing. Understand the facade. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I've had internet stalkers already. I don't even need to completely like what's that? What is it that I said? It might be that my destiny is to like really let everything out, like on Livestream, holding nothing back. Everything that comes to my mind. That might be what life invites me to do. But the other stuff's already happened, so trust me, I have been, life has worked its job on all of that. When you put yourself on the internet when you're 30 years old as a young woman, it doesn't look like, no, I was going to make a joke then. That's not nice. But when you do it, I was very naive in the beginning. Then it invites all types. Yeah. Being present on the internet and having a presence on the internet has been an amazing teacher. It really has. Yes. Hello, Robertus. Hi, Lisa. Great work on sharing some of your facade. That's what makes people amazing to follow. We all think and worry about the same things. By the time you're 60, you won't care about the farts while sitting in silence. Yeah, maybe. As Ramdas says, love everybody. Thank you. Love to see your stillness. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I can ease up on the farting and let that be seen by everybody. I did once make a video. It was so funny. My friend who made it at the time, we rolled around laughing so much. We did it. We made a little fake video where I was answering a question, then I said, "Oh, sorry, I've got to go to the toilet," and then we pretended that I'd left my microphone on, and then you could hear me in the toilet like going, like the trinkle of wee, and then it was And then we just put it on the internet as if it was like a normal video that had been uploaded. Oh my goodness, and we laughed so much. But it really offended some people because they thought that I was mocking non-duality. And I hadn't really thought that far about mocking non-duality. I just thought how funny that was, that I'm talking about like serious stuff and suffering, and then I go to the toilet and everyone hears me go to the toilet. Yeah. That was very funny. Oh, hi, Fashil. He's up for chatting. Yes, nice. Cool if you're still there, Fashil. But it's not just that, it's like a deeper sense, like just the farting, like that's more of a superficial sense. It's just that, like being human, there is like a facade that's created. Just, like I'm not sitting here and be like, whoa, although I do sometimes. I'm expecting the shield to call, so, but it doesn't. Don't know if he is going to. Black hole. And also when I meet people, like there's part of me that's watching the way they're interacting, not necessarily to get them to like me, but just to be peaceful. Hey, Bashil.
Hello.
Hello.
Hold on, let me pause you on the iPad real quick.
Pause the past me.
I know, yeah, I know. I'm listening to the like you're just putting on your earbuds right now, and so yeah. Okay, there we go. Now I'm talking to present Lisa.
Yeah, it's really funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you? I don't think we've spoken since last year.
Yeah, it has been last year. No, I've been doing really well, except for well, I broke my toe about 6 weeks ago, and it's
Is
just
that a
kind of
painful
thrown.
thing?
What's that?
Is that painful, or is it a bit unnoticeable?
Yeah, no, it was excruciating at first, but now it's more of a kind of a dull pain. But if I walk too much on it, then it starts to get pretty significant. And yeah, it's kind of thrown my whole body out of whack. But I don't know, it's interesting, you know, like you just have to. It forces you to rest.
Yeah.
Forces you, like, just keeps you on your butt.
Yeah.
It's actually been kind of difficult to come to terms with. Like, I guess I'm noticing all of this, oh, you lazy piece of shit, you, like, even though I can't actually do anything, you know, I still feel like I should be.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, it's been a bit challenging kind of dealing with that.
Yeah.
Those patterns of being a productive American.
Yeah.
I guess. But,
yeah. Yeah, I once ripped my toenail off, and I remember that was agonizing. So I can imagine it's 10 times worse than that.
It is, yeah. I was really hoping it was just a sprain, but no, I had to go to the doctor, get an X-ray, and yeah, it's a fracture. So, woe is me.
Yeah.
But
which toe was it?
The pinky toe, which you don't realize how important the pinky toe is until it breaks.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit of a pain, but also quite a learning experience.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I don't know. The reason that I called though, or wanted to talk was I've been reading a little bit of Osho.
Oh yeah.
On just kind of a lot of stuff on relationships and relating and love, generally speaking. And I don't know. It like he talked a lot about what love is not.
Oh, hang on.
You know.
Just let me check that you're in. Can you just speak? Sorry. Again, sorry.
Hello?
Oh yeah, you're
Hello?
on.
Hello?
Sorry, I just had to
Okay.
check for other people that you're in. I always forget to check that. Yeah, carry on.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Otherwise, it's just Lisa on the phone. You, you don't know who she's talking to, but yeah. But yeah, I was. I guess I was just becoming very. These past few days, I've just become very cognizant of the fact that I don't know. I mistaken love and attachment. Like I don't know. It's almost that what I've been taught all my life to be
Yeah.
love is actually, you know,
Yeah.
attachment. You know, the possessiveness and
Yeah.
desire and jealousy, expectations, all that stuff. You know, not just from lovers, but also family as well.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah. I don't know if you like love is such a varied word,
yeah,
like, because this whole notion of being in love, like you can't really sustain being in love. So like some
hmm,
people say it's like a being in love is like a chemical reaction that happens in the brain,
hmm,
which you get for the first 2 years in relationship in order to produce children. And they say it's a physiological reaction that happens, and it makes you a bit goo goo
hmm,
gaga.
no,
And maybe that has some truth in it, like it produces strong chemical like draw attraction to the body. Um, and then some people maybe see love as a way of stopping them feeling so lonely,
hmm,
so isolated and lonely, and it
no,
fulfills like a big hole. But it's not a sustained thing, because everything that we think and feel, so even if you fall in love with someone, those chemicals aren't being released all the time, or those thoughts or those feelings aren't being released all the time. There's something that comes and goes in waves. They're not like a fixed thing. So we're always in flux. So the question always is like, who is it that's in love? Like the body mind is having reactions to the other person, but there isn't actually this thing of somebody being in love and meeting your soulmate. It's like an impossibility. But it doesn't mean that you can't meet someone and spend the rest of your life with someone. It does seem that our bodies are like set up to do that type of thing, but it's not a fixed thing. And often what we're doing is we're living in a story of what we tell ourselves to love to be. So we're repeating a story of meeting the soulmate, or meeting this perfect person, or meeting um, someone that you can spend the rest of your life with. And all of that is useful in a way, because it helps us find someone in which we can do that with. But it's also a really untrue thing. It's not a fixed thing, and we take it so seriously in our society that it's such a serious thing that we've got to do. And from my experience, that I only really could truly be in love with someone, from my interpretation of being in love, after this shift happened. Like my personality just had too many traumas or too many ideas around being in relationship, and it couldn't really be in love. And to me, what being in love was this connection to who I am, and then looking at the world in love, and then having this one person that I could celebrate that with. It was like express love with. Like I couldn't go around like kissing and telling how wonderful like my mum was, or my dad, or my friend. Whereas when you meet someone, you have this one person in which you can express that with, and that's really beautiful thing. And that's as far as really what I can put into words being in love is, or what my relationship with being in love with is. And then with that person you can create a life, but that's more of a practical thing, and that's more of just a joy, a side effect of it, of like creating a life and having someone that you share the jobs and share the routine with and share the money with, and have kids if you want to.
that sounds like a much more functional definition than I've heard from before. But yeah, it's
I really like Osho though for how radical he is at pointing things out. Like I'm not sure what you're reading about what he says, but he can be so hardcore, which can be really good about with the brain. You know, like I've heard him give talks. I don't think I've ever read his books, but I used to listen to his talks when I was at his ashrams, and you know, I'd hear him give talks on really like deconstructing it and saying that all everyone wants to do is fuck, and you should just fuck your heads off.
yeah.
And I think all of that's great for breaking down on the human level, like what your brain has built up around these ideas. Like, and then other times I've heard him talk about monogamy. Like, I think he used to change dependent on the day. Like he felt.
He really, I mean, yeah, like, well, I've never really, my introduction with him was via books, and I mean, I feel like he changed like within the span of a page.
Yeah.
You know, like he'll contradict himself in the span of a page depending on who he's talking to. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but there is a, I don't know, but at the same time it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I think basically it's you go through this phase of just seeing that everything isn't true. Everything, what you think about this life and what you feel about this life, until the mind or the body mind relaxes enough to see different possibility. Like like everything isn't true. Everything. Like even the cup that you're drinking from now, or the room that you're sitting in, or any story that you're on a planet, that you're in a globe, that you're alive, that you're speaking to me. And nothing is true. There are just thoughts that appear. And then here we are. And that here we are is so vulnerable when we begin to see beyond thoughts. The body's meant to have thoughts. You're meant to distinguish between drinking poison and drinking water. But it's not fact. Like I've even met people along the spiritual path, and I'm not advising anyone to do this, but I've met people along, like I remember meeting one woman who decided she was going to put this to experiment. I've never done this and I'm not recommending it at all, but she decided to drink poison to see if it was all mind made. Like to see if like that sounds really crazy, and like my mind is really crazy. Like my mind believes that anything's possible, and so she believed with all her heart that the poison wouldn't affect her, and it didn't affect her. And I'm not recommending people to do that, because most people believe that the poison would affect them or would hurt them.
No.
But she wholeheartedly believed, and she wanted to prove it. Like she wanted to see if that was true, you know, if she believed something with all her heart, if what would happen practically. And so she did it, and she did all types of things. Like she ate bacteria that she was, you know, told she shouldn't eat. And this sounds really crazy, but to me this is maybe something that I was talking about with the facade thing. Like I don't think I present how crazy I am on the internet well enough. Like I really believe that's possible. But I don't think that people should try it, because I don't think that many people's minds are open enough. And I think if you believe that the poison will hurt you, it will hurt you. If you believe the bacteria will hurt you, it will hurt you. But I've met people that have done these types of things, and it's and seen them do really crazy things and nothing happens to them. I don't know how we got onto that.
No, I mean, it's fascinating, and I mean, that's also something that I've been kind of dealing with, you know. I'm still constantly trying to, I guess I see this habit of going to the mind for what is true, what is me.
Yeah.
but yeah, it seems, but I mean, I can walk it back and like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know that this is true. Um, this isn't, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can walk it back and it'll pop, but yeah, it just seems awfully persistent, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I am curious though, the whole thing of persistence. Is it like, do I need to read into it any more than that? Like, oh, this is just a persistent thought, or maybe it's an indication that I haven't seen something,
Um,
you know? Um,
I don't think you need to make a judgment either way. Like if in the next moment you decide to explore it more, then go with that.
hmm,
And if you see it in the next moment as just thought, I don't think you have to make a rule of how to behave. I
right.
think that will naturally and organically
Yeah,
like appear
yeah. Hmm,
of like for the moment. Like, so if after this phone call you decide that you've got to investigate this more, then have an investigation, then later on, and really trusting that everything, our whole world is created by what we believe on the human level. So what your mind believes, but you're not in control of that. It's even a belief that you're in control of it. Like it's something that's happening. So if your mind believes that this world looks a certain way, then it will look a certain way. But that's come from thousands of years of evolution within that dream. Isn't that really weird? But
yeah,
it's like that's what your parents believed and your grandparents believed, and so that's what's being passed on to you through genetics and then social conditioning. So that's what your brain believes. So it goes back to that. Like I always found this really amazing, and maybe I quote it wrong or I'll get it wrong slightly, but about when something like Columbus or when people came over to America on boats, and they went to tribal areas where they'd never seen boats before.
excuse me.
They'd maybe seen little boats, but they'd never seen the big boats like Europeans had. And because they'd never seen them and they didn't have a concept of them, they couldn't actually see the boat.
Hmm.
So they
I've heard that,
couldn't.
yeah.
Yeah, and so what they did see was they saw particular formations in the water, and then eventually they saw the people coming from the water, and then I think eventually they maybe saw the boat, but at first they couldn't see the boat. And it's kind of like in this environment now, our brain is perceiving what it needs and what it trains and what it is vital for your survival in this particular dream, or in this particular reality, whatever you want to call it. But it's not. There's, like anything can happen. If your brain changes, the world will change. The world and the brain are the same. Like in a way, you're walking around in a big brain, and
Like
we have
God's brain.
yeah. Actually, it is God's brain on the ultimate level, but it's appearing as your brain, like the way that your brain is seeing the world. But on an ultimate level, it's God's brain because God creates the brain. So we have like a collective reality in which we see, and we decide we call that we call that reality. So we as humans have agreed, in order to survive together, we've had to agree on what reality is and what's true and what's false and the way in which we see things. If we didn't, we wouldn't be able to communicate. And then people that don't see the way in which we collectively see, we call them mad or insane, and we say there's something wrong with their brain, which in terms of our society, that's okay to say that. We can call them mentally ill and we can call them crazy. It's not truth, but we can call them that because it's different from the collective brain that's producing a particular world and a particular reality. But it doesn't mean that what they're saying is more or less true than what we're seeing. It's just that more of us believe our reality, but everyone has like tiny different versions of their reality, the collective reality, so everyone sees it slightly different. So yeah, so people with mental illness or schizophrenia could be seeing different dimensions. There's they could be seeing like entities in bodies, you know, like so if someone says gets fixated on particular people's particular behavior, they could be seeing entities, they could be seeing all types of things. But it's their brain which is open or different, which is seeing these different realities. It doesn't mean that they're fiction and they're made up. It's just as much fiction as what we're seeing. But we all collectively believe in our reality. So everyone's like they're making you feel like your world is real. So you look for people that make you feel like your world is real and believe in similar worlds as you. So you look for people that have similar, like, so some people could call us mentally insane. I kind of forget that because I'm so used to duality in this subject. I've done it for so long. I kind of forget that it's really insane what we say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would see us as, I'm sure there's some people and even some therapists or psychologists that would see us as having some sort of mental disorder, a dissociative disorder or some form of, maybe grandiose, because we talk about something called enlightenment.
Yeah. I did notice that actually. Yeah, I remembered like I took like a psych class and they were talking about serial killers and you know I think they call it what detachment disorder or something like that.
Yeah.
I just remember them using the term detachment to describe serial killers, and I was taking a Buddhism class as well, and the Buddha was talking about detachment. I just sound like, is the Buddha a serial killer? Is he? He was just a deranged lunatic. I don't know. But,
yeah.
sorry, did I interrupt you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, it is. Yeah, and so and this is something that, you know, I think I come across as more sane than I am in these talks, you know, because we've got a fixed subject in which we're talking about, and but my mind, I don't really believe in anything that's good and bad, and if you really, really take that on board, that I'm saying that I don't really believe in anything that's good and bad, like I can relatively speak, so I can sound as if I'm sane to everybody and say it's bad if the neighbour goes out and kills a cat, but I also have this other perspective that knows that I can't decipher if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's good or bad. That kind of, from a bigger perspective, it's bad in what we determine as our sane reality, but I don't know what it is. Like even with politics, like I tend to be a little bit left on this left wing, but even in politics, like I don't even really, like I talk as if I, like that's what my character thinks, and it thinks that there's somebody like Donald Trump is bad, but I also don't know the effect that that's having. I also don't know, and I don't see him like as bad really. And that sounds like a philosophy, but it's actually like an internal way of viewing things. So it also means I can't really be angry with him. I don't really feel anger towards him. Like I can feel upset about these things, and I feel repulsed by sometimes the things they say and do, but at the same time there's nothing that's good or bad. Like we don't know what happens to our society if we take out the sociopath. We don't know the result of that.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And that really is more in line with the truth than it is to believe that you are good or that you are bad. It's just so out of control that because it really can wreck our society if everyone really comprehended that. Because then we're all living by all these moral protocols. So what would that do? Like, we're all afraid of what it would do. It would like unleash all these sociopaths or psychopaths or narcissists. But also we're afraid of us. Like, what would it unleash in us? Like, what would I do if I totally gave up on the notion of good and bad? Like, what is my possibility if I really gave up on that concept?
Yeah, even like in this moment, I kind of, just being open to that possibility. It's kind of a contracted feeling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's often because of fear of others. But on the same level, like, waking up doesn't mean that you lose that on the human level, but it's just playing with these ideas and seeing like what we attach to, like what we are attached to, like what we really fundamentally believe. And a lot of the time, our two biggest things that we believe in is good and bad over everything else. And
Yeah.
you could even associate that with life and death. Like, living is good and death is bad, and we hold so tightly to that. And it's just questioning it. And then at the end of the day, like, our body still opt to do the good thing. It knows the good thing, but it's just playing with that. And it can be scary when you begin to play with that. And I think Osho was really amazing and really brave in that he really fucked with people's minds. Like, I know some people would think it's really bad, but he really like allowed people to, like, he had this community where he really allowed people to express that.
Yeah.
I think I just have to let the dog into the garden. I don't know if you can hear her crying. One sec.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
One. Let me be back. And he was really brave. I mean, and we don't know what happened to Osho. I think there's a good possibility that he was killed. We don't know. It could also be conspiracy theory as well. But he created this community where he really allowed people to do really extreme things. Like, if you've ever seen any of, like, I saw some recordings of these big, like, sex activity things where people were like acting out all types of weird things. I don't know if you saw any of that.
No, I don't think I had.
Like, really aggressive and really violent, and also really soft and really sweet. But it's really experimental stuff. It's really crossing the boundaries. And yeah. And especially in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
It's funny. I guess it's easy for me to, because what you were saying about, say, Trump, for example. Yeah, I lean left, like kind of center left. But I feel similar. It's almost like it's almost like I'm watching a TV show.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at politics, like, there's just kind of a, I don't know. It's an investment, but it's just like I'm playing the game of investment. Like, it's almost like watching, I don't know, Game of Thrones or something, where I mean, there's an investment just to kind of play that role, but like deep down, there is kind of a, yeah, like, this is all just kind of a, a play. It's all just yeah, just part of the movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of a helpful perspective to take. I don't how do you say? I don't get all knotted up around politics anymore because of that. But
Yeah.
I guess I don't know, from the way we're talking now, like maybe that's a good way to kind of look at everything. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and
life
that's
in
and that,
general.
yeah, and that's what I think non-duality does, and this subject does, is it's relaxing the mind.
Mm,
And then as the mind gets relaxed, the seeking dissipates, and then there is another possibility, the shift that happens, the shift of perspective. And it doesn't always have to be that way. Like someone like Eckhart Tolle went into absolute suffering and contraction, and then there was a shift.
yeah.
So there's everything contradicts itself in the end. But it if you think about it, we forget what it's like when we started in this subject. But if you think, if I think about today when I was at the hairdresser's, I was listening to the women talk, and they have so many type views on everything. They were being really judgmental about the royal family. It was everyone in England's talking about the royal family at the moment, and really tight and really judgmental, and you can see that even though there's enjoyment in there and judgment, you can see that there is a lot of seeking there and a lot of illusion that's going on there. And it would be impossible to speak about this with them. They would just think that I was absolutely insane, or they would just get really, really angry. And it's just a reaction that would happen in the mind. It would be like I was attacking them, or that I was insulting them, or they would feel scared of me, that they wouldn't respond well. And we forget that once we've been into this subject for 5 or 10 years, how open our mind has become. And it's not the mind that becomes enlightened, but it's almost like there has to be a dissipation of involvement in it. It's the mind is just seen as something that's happening. It's not invested in like it was before. They were getting so upset just because someone they don't even know quit a royal family. And they think it was rude to the royal family, and why should they as taxpayers pay for this or that, and they're so angry and outraged by it, and it's so irrelevant, but to them it's important. And then if someone disagrees with that, it's seen as an attack on them, and they're so involved in their story and their life. And then as you get into this subject, everything becomes less and less important. There's seen, there's less suffering around things, but it also gets deeper and deeper, because you also begin to question the fundamentals of being human, which is quite an intense thing.
Yeah, I did. I was just thinking, if I told someone, that this whole politics thing is a soap opera, if I said that to the wrong person out here, yeah, that could. How dare you? This is life and death. Literally, lives are on the line. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that is kind of. Yeah, I guess politics is a good start. But yeah, my day to day, there's still, I don't know, quite a bit of investment. I guess when I get a little bit closer to, say, how do I pay rent? How do I, how do I advance myself in my career, in my relationships? Once it starts getting more personal, those are a lot of beliefs around that have yet to drop. I see there's still a little bit of investment there.
And predominantly our investment is because we believe that life is logical rather than magical. So if you believe that it's your job to pay this ongoing rent that you have to pay every month, and that you have to find money for, and this becomes a heavy weight, a heavy burden. It's an idea that you've got to produce this money, and you've got to endlessly do it until you die. And and then everybody else is stressing out about it, and there's all these different ideas that and we've got to have a certain amount of things and look a certain way, and the trick to it is seeing that it happens magically. Like, so the most important thing is changing your view to it. Just like I was telling you about this lady that I knew that drank poison she really believed that it wouldn't hurt her, and it didn't. Like, it's the same with the rent, seeing that it's not your job to produce the rent. Like, I'm really trusting that it will come. It will happen. But it's such a step into madness. That's madness in our society.
Yeah, it really is.
Madness.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and there's like this. Okay. So just to put it in like just a context, like that's currently happening right now. There's this play that I got an audition for in San Diego, and on paper it sounds so interesting. It's actually kind of like this part of this trilogy based on the Trimurti, right? There's three plays, one about Vishnu, one about Brahma, one about the Lord Shiva, and yeah, this one's about Shiva, but it is the most pretentious schlock I've ever read. It's so goddamn pretentious, and it's meandering, and it goes absolutely nowhere, and but sorry,
but people like to see it.
I guess, yeah, people like to, yeah, just sniff their own farts and feel very cultured. Oh wow, yeah, I'm really learning about it. Someone else's. I don't know. It. I mean, I guess it's not the worst thing I've ever read, but it also goes nowhere. It strikes me in no way, shape, or form. But there is this like this should that comes up around it. Like I should be working my ass off to get this down and to really learn these lines and to get a good product out because I have a rent to pay, I have a career to advance, and but yeah, I find no joy in it, and yeah, it. But I don't know. Maybe at the same time, like I also find that one of my things is like I'm more afraid of success than I am of failure. I also notice that as well. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just fooling myself and telling myself that like I don't like this at all, and I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. There could be other like complex dynamics that go on in that as well. Yeah, because the mind is amazing in the way that it manifests.
Yeah.
And it's all down to the body, like feeling the body. The body knows. So it knows when you're bullshitting. Like it knows when it's out of line. But deep down it knows. Like, so if you imagined, like, and there's also nothing wrong with wanting to pay your rent. Like, that's not a wrong reason to do it. It's just seeing, like, does it make you vibrate, the idea of acting in that?
No.
Yeah.
But I guess what's coming up now is like it doesn't, but if I let this go, then ooh, yeah, it's just a jump into the unknown. Well, what else could come? Like if I don't take this opportunity, who knows if there's going to be another one, or a better one? Maybe it'll be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, the uncertainty of if I turn this down, what'll. Even though I've always been held like. The more I go into this thing, the more like this whole non-duality business. It's like I am seeing more and more like there have been times when the rent is due and I'm down to my last few dollars and I still don't go along with the should and the contraction
Yeah.
and suddenly they're just a miracle, you know.
Yeah.
I just book something out of the blue, and
Yeah.
or I get a paycheck that I didn't realize I was supposed to be getting, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
as the show's doing well in Saudi Arabia, and
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like like letting go into that. And then also, you know, it's also okay to do something because you want money. Like that can also have a really beautiful vibration. Like not out of fear.
yeah,
And also if you do make a decision out of fear, that's okay too. But the also doing something for money can have a beautiful vibration as well.
money can have a beautiful vibration.
Yeah, doing something for money can have a beautiful vibration. Like so if you like in a way you are motivated to act in order to receive money.
Yeah,
Like so and it can have something really positive in it, like doing something for money. Like
yeah,
it doesn't always have to be negative. So sometimes we can also have a block just around doing something for money because we think we shouldn't as well.
yeah. No, no, no. I know. I see what you mean now. Yeah. Yeah, I did. I actually, I don't. I think since the last time we talked, I did book a national commercial, which was a lot of fun, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, that was purely a money. You know,
yeah,
wasn't exactly an Oscar winner or anything like that,
yeah.
but it was. Yeah,
And you still
it was
enjoyed
fun
it.
to just. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
Yeah,
just spending a day making money. Um,
yeah.
yeah, no, I agree.
No.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe it's just. Hmm.
Maybe it's time for me to go now. I've just realised I'm 40 minutes over what I normally talk.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I
Oh,
normally talk
sorry.
till 8 o'clock French time, and
Yeah.
it's now 8:40. I must have been on like nearly 3 hours.
Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, that's something.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for extending the talk. This has been incredibly helpful.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's always lovely to speak with you.
Yeah, you as well. You as well.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle.
All right. You take
Bye.
care, huh?
So thanks, guys. I realised that I went a lot over today, but I enjoyed speaking to you all. So I shall see you on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. I'm going to start traveling again soon, so there might be some times that I don't make it. So just remember to check the website. Okay, guys. People, not guys. People. I got told off, and then I made fun of someone else for saying guys one time. This is an old, dated, and sexist comment, guys. We want to say people, human beings. Goodbye, human beings. Live long and prosper.